Hello, folks. I'm Dan Hollifield. Welcome to Last Man Standing. Well, we've already got Chris on screen. Might as well bring Bill up here. Uh,
Yep.
I had to dash away real quick. It seems the cat went to sleep behind my chair, and I rolled back over something.
Oh,
And she is not badly hurt, but
that's good.
I'm hoping that she will have learned not to sleep behind my chair. She was asleep on my feet underneath the desk, and I did not realize that she had moved to the other side of the chair. Um, but she's got a bad habit of being back there when I try and roll the chair back. So I
Yeah.
feel real bad, but she's not seriously hurt. So uh,
She'll forgive you. It's just like I mentioned to Stephanie earlier today. She was
it
worried about the cat. It'll forgive her.
scared the crap out of me. Let me tell you.
I know. It's you don't want anything to happen because they're lovable
Nope.
little shits,
Yep.
but they can be a handful at times.
Yes, they can. Well, let me step away to the fridge here for a second. I'm not even going to kill my camera because I've only got to take, as it were, give me 3 steps.
You, he's just going to have to get that a little bit closer to him. He could
Well,
have it like an end table or something. Put a lamp on the top, and then he could just reach down, open the door, and get what he needs out of there.
well, three
Oh
steps isn't that bad.
no, it's better than the 2 step tango. So
Hmm.
oh yes, something has seriously happened to my capacity here. I only went through 1.5 drinks during stupid o'clock. So maybe that's the price of trying to run the show. You don't have time to take care of the little things, uh, like going and getting a fresh cold one. But one of these days, I'll figure out how to put that fridge over here within reach, and I won't have to
That's
get
why I
out
was
of the
just
chair.
telling Chris. I said that you ought to have it like an end table next to your chair.
Mm. The deciding factor is where is the electrical outlet to plug it into.
Hmm.
Everything close to my chair has computer equipment plugged into it, and I do
Yeah.
mean
What the heck?
everything.
Just slap on another power strip and
I could do it, but then,
I got
yeah,
two power strips coming out of one outlet in my wall,
I would hesitate.
and
I would hesitate to say how I have got things arranged here because I probably would be cited by the fire departments, the fire marshal for having a
Don't
hazard
want
here.
that happening.
Ooh, um, let's just say there are
well, the
multiple
thing
power strips.
thing about it is, at least with the power strip, if it just pops it off, that's fine. I remember when my dad back in 40, 50 years ago used to have all these things connected up all together, and of course, you didn't have the power strip that would kick it off or anything. It just when it blew, it blew.
Yep, you
Yeah.
just had drop cords there. So
Then Dad had to go make a trip down in the basement and check to see which fuse it was.
hmm
Yeah.
well, we have now that it is Sunday, we have 1 week before Aphelion's next issue comes out, and that will be the beginning of our 25th year of publication.
Wow. That's
Yep.
impressive.
The average life for a website when we started up was 2 to 3 years. We have already exceeded that by a power of 10. So,
That is impressive.
as a matter of fact, there's only one other sci fi amateur writing zine that is as old as Aphelion, and they started up about 2 weeks after we did. So basically, we are the internet's oldest sci-fi and fantasy amateur writing website. So, and the other one that I mentioned, they are still in business, so they've been chugging along just like we have. We have had people who had come in as writers and said, "Hey, this is neat. I want to run my own magazine," and they would last about a year or two before they
Mhm.
folded up because it's a little bit of expense, which I pay. Um, it's a commitment to meeting a deadline, which most of the time we do. We didn't in the early years. It was more honored in the breach than the observance. At, and it's for us, it's a commitment to uh, not charging any fees for the writers to submit stuff or the readers to read stuff, and
Mhm.
not having any advertisements. So
So what?
it doesn't make a dime for me. In 25 years, it's never made me a dime, and that's the way I want to keep it.
But what's this thing you call a deadline? I don't understand that.
It's that thing that makes that lovely whooshing noise when it flashes by. Oh,
Now,
so
are you going to have anything special planned for the anniversary next Sunday?
I really don't know. We have just we usually have a special uh double issue for December and January, so just everybody can enjoy the holidays and not have to worry about getting up to Christmas and going, "Oh, I've got to put together another issue of the magazine." So
Hmm.
we do a best of along with a selection of brand new stuff uh, starting in uh, the the first Sunday of December and let it run to the first Sunday of February. So we put out 11 issues a year, and the like I said, the December January is the only double issue. Sometimes we have when we've had a milestone like this, we have played a few practical jokes. I remember one year it was suggested that I make up an index page like the normal index page, but not have any of the links work. You click on them and click on them and click on them, nothing would happen until you got down to the bottom of the page and click on something that didn't say this is the real index page. It said something totally different. If you persistent went all the way down the page, it would go to the next actual ish, index page where you would find the real stories and whatnot. And then one year we we reproduced the very first index page for the magazine, and you could actually click on the links, and the very first stories that we ever put out were on there. Um, in our archive section, we've got every story that was ever published in Aphelion except for the ones the writers have asked us to remove so that they can shop it around and get published. So there is a place, what I call a placeholder page, that we put there with the same uh, file name on it. So when you click on that link for that story, it goes to the placeholder page, which says this story has been removed um, for publication at the request of the author, or something similar to that wordage.
Mhm.
And you just go, well, I wanted to read that. I guess I'll have to buy his book now, um, or hers, as the case may be.
Actually, had a few of those to go through. I think what we were talking about in the green room last night about, well, my that every day is Saturday group.
Mhm.
Um, you can put in there whatever you want, of course, as long as it related to what the group is about, and you got to abide by the rules. So I just have them answer the questions.
Yeah.
And then they got to run a preview by me, and then I'll either accept it or decline it or whatever. And just like I was talking about last night, tonight I go in there and I think I'm seeing someone's family reunion from a third world country or something. It has nothing to do with Saturday morning cartoons or commercials, PSAs, or anything like that. Anything that you would ever remember about Saturday morning, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one tonight. I ended up having to block him, and I don't block very many people and that, but when I do, there's a reason. And they went above and beyond to have me block them, because I put up with a lot of crap. I'm a big boy, you know. This guy here looked like he was running ads for all kinds of semi-automatic weapons.
Lord,
also in a third world country. Of course, language I did not know, which I probably could have looked it up, figured it out. Either way, I declined it and blocked the user.
well,
And he wasn't even a member in the group. Sometimes it'll show him as being a visitor, and I think that's because we're a public group. And I don't really want to change it to private. I want people to happen upon it and say, hey, I really like this stuff. This brought back a bunch of memories or whatever, you know, and then
that's what it's
join the
there
group.
for.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it is there for the public. But then when I see things like this, I'm like, I should not only block this guy, I should forward his URL information to the FBI or somebody.
Mm-hmm. It has been known to happen.
Mhm.
The problem that we have been having for the last couple of years, we've got a comment section, a forum section, where once somebody reads a story, we recommend they go over there and tell the writer what they thought about it, whether, you know, what worked and what didn't work, and that way the writer can learn. Well, you're right. Maybe I do need to make my villains a little bit more interesting, or maybe I should describe the background scenery just a little bit more, or something like that. Or and then, in order to comment on it, you've got to join it. And we have had hundreds of spam bots and porn bots day after day after day trying to get in there. And there's a captcha and a security question you have to answer, and they will Google the answer. These things are sophisticated. Now, the only thing I have found that slows them down is if you've got, say, a photograph of a book cover and you don't announce the title anywhere in the file name or anything like that. So you don't give the bot a clue to go by. And the question is, who's the author of this book?
Mm-hmm.
The name might be on the photograph, but the bots aren't sophisticated enough yet to actually read a cover photo and figure out, this is the title, this is the writer, this is the publisher. That's the only thing that slows them down, and they'll get to the point to where sooner or later there'll be enough processing power for them to be able to do that with some kind of photo recognition software.
Excuse me.
So I dread the day.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. I know when I was setting up the questions on joining, you know, I didn't want to make them hard or anything, but I just wanted to make them that was something involving that era, between the 50s and through the 80s. And so the questions were easy questions, but then I took some, a couple of the 60s and one or two from the 70s and maybe one from the 80s or something like that, put it in there. But yeah, to do a photograph, that would be great. You have a photograph of, say, Underdog and somebody, Scooby-Doo or somebody from the Hair Bear Bunch or Johnny Quest or whatever, and who are these people?
Who are these people? Yeah.
But Facebook and its infinite wisdom does not give you that option.
Nope, not yet. That would cost money.
Well, it used to be when you could put, like, when you had your groups, you could have polls that you could have.
Yeah.
Say, who's your favorite, the Beatles or the Stones? And so you put the option for them to pick whichever one, and you could put a picture next to it at the time. Now, they've either changed it to where I can't find for you to take a picture from your gallery to put in there to add to the poll option on that, or they just took it away altogether. And I fear that's what they did, was just took it away altogether. And it just, I don't know. It always added to it, I thought, when you had the picture to it. Mm-hmm. I used to do that on my artwork channel or page all the time. Christmas time, I would say, what's your favorite Christmas movie? And I would list about 8 or 10, but I would leave the thing open to where you could add your own too. If I happen to forget one, like one somebody did a couple of years ago, totally forgot, The Bishop's Wife, like, oh yeah, that's a Christmas movie, and to let them add that in there. But then the ones that I put in there, of course, I put in the actual theatrical posters in for the pictures for each one, just to kind of dress it up a little bit. But
I've often thought of putting a trick question in there. They asked the question, who wrote Bach's Rhapsody in Blue? And the correct answer is Gershwin, not Bach. Yeah. So, of course, they just Google who actually wrote it. Hey, Carrie, how you doing?
Hi, Carrie.
11-hour stream. Oh,
wow, that's impressive.
You better stand up for a little while now. That's an awful lot of sitting.
Really? Hope you got up and took a walk before you popped in here.
Don't want any blood clots forming in your legs or anything. You end up having a pulmonary embolism or something for sitting for so long.
I was thinking more of bed sores, but
Well, there's and my brother got it because he was diabetic. There's a specific gangrene, which of course John's gone, so I can't ask him because he'd probably know. Mm-hmm. A specific type of gangrene that's affiliated with the military, simply because of people who drove tanks or flew jets or whatever, where you were constantly sitting for X amount of hours at a time. And I'll be thinking about that the rest of the night.
It's not something I know the answer to. I'll tell you that.
I don't know either, and I could probably Google it, but I'm just tired.
Yeah, for a quick statement, that's fine. If for an in-depth search and discussion, let's just find another topic.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
Lord.
before I forget, just on a personal note, next week, because of our weather event that's coming this one, well, typically or technically Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday,
Yeah.
but mainly Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to try to make another trip up to her dad's house up in Chicago on Sunday morning. So that means I will be able to try to stay in for stupid o'clock is about as long as I can, but unfortunately I will not be able to make last man standing next unless something drastically changes and we don't go. And I think right now at this time, Laura's told me the only thing that would keep her from going if it's still snowing or starts snowing again. But I know they got blasted last night up there. They had a winter storm warning
I
going
just
on
looked
for a
at
while.
our local weather. It looks like we're going to get rain on Thursday, but nothing Wednesday. So it's not drifting this far down south yet, as far as they know. I'm glad you stepped away to take an intermission, Carrie. I mean, seriously.
Good.
11 hours in the chair. I might could do it if I was asleep, but not having to run a stream. No.
No. No, I think with us
streams, but
yeah.
The one that comes to mind was the show was over and I slept for about 6 hours afterwards. So,
or you sat in a chair for so long, and when you had to go, there was a different kind of stream you had to deal with.
Well, I just
no, our weather thing next Wednesday and Thursday right now. I've seen two different reports. One saying freezing rain and sleet mix, and then the other one was all snow, depending once again on how far south it travels. And but this could be our first measurable snow. They're talking 4-6 inches if it is all snow.
I am looking forward to not having to drip the tap to keep the water pipes from freezing, and not getting any rain for a week or two, so that our septic tank, the ground can actually dry out enough for our septic tank to drain. Because we have just been inundated with rain here for the last month or two. So the ground is so soaked. The septic tank will not drain. The drain lines are actually pulling in water from the ground and filling up the septic tank. So, that's exactly backwards of the way the process is supposed to work. So,
yeah, you don't want it to work that way. Well, we've been the opposite here. It has been so dry. Of course, the ground's frozen here, but
yeah,
I had to go out there today. I was putting some more bird food out, and I have a concrete bird bath, kind of shaped like a big sunflower. The basin is the better part of it, but anyway, it was kind of leaning on me. I don't know if the wind the other night did that. I couldn't imagine, because that thing weighs a ton.
Yeah,
just the base weighs a ton, or the stand, let alone the basin part. The basin part probably weighs about 75 pounds, and then the stand that it sits on is probably a good 50 or 60 pounds. But something either climbed up into it that was a lot heavier, and I'm kind of wondering if it might have been a cat or something. We got a neighborhood cat that's kind of skulking around.
Have to be a pretty fat cat to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
My money would be on a deer or something.
Raccoon or whatever. Something either knocked into it or jumped in it. I've seen the squirrels jump up there, and stuff before. Actually, I've even seen a raccoon jump up there before and get in it and not move it at all. But
Yeah.
I think what I'm going to have to do is probably go to Menards or Lowe's and get a little, probably at least a little 12 by 12 pad that put underneath it. It's sitting up in rock right now. It's ground cover, but it's not river rock. It's the other kind. It's the bigger kind of rock. I can't think of what it's called now, but so I know that's part of the problem. But the way this kind of just tipped over overnight, kind of leaning like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, I figured it must have been an animal.
Yeah. The one we have in our backyard is sitting on an outcrop of granite that it's it sticks up about 2 or 3 inches out of the ground, and it's about 6 feet in diameter. And I'm pretty sure if you tried to dig that up, it would stretch all the way to Stone Mountain in one unbroken piece. It's not just a big boulder. It's part of the same granite that Elbert County makes their living off of using for uh, uh, tombstones and
Oh yeah,
things
Indiana
like that.
does too.
Yep.
Indiana has a lot of it.
Yep. The whatever volcanic bubble that gave rise to Stone Mountain also deposited a lot of granite into here, and it shows. It shows. My yard has so many rocks in it, and these are just loose rocks. I would really hate to have this as a field that I would have to plow, because I would be breaking the pins on a chisel plow and having to kick that thing back in place and put a fresh pin in it every 6 or 8 feet. So that's bad enough on a field that has been farmed for a generation or two. But this, I think, when they did the road bed, they just threw stuff off into the yards along the road there. It would have been before the house was built, obviously. And then when they dug the foundations for the house, they just put a big old pile of broken up rock off to one side. That's where I put my cactus garden in that. It's got a little layer of dirt on it, and the cacti don't need very much. Not a very deep layer of dirt. Got Joshua trees and the pancake cactus. I had all kinds of ornamental cactus in there, but it's too wet for them. They just can't make it. I've got a palm tree I brought back from Florida out in the back, and it's doing real well. It's about 12, 14 feet tall now, and it was only about 6 or 8 inches when I planted it almost 18 years ago. And we've got another one of those concrete bird baths in the front yard. And what we did with that, got a 18 by 18 foot concrete paving stone, and dug out a space for that, leveled it up, and then put the concrete bird bath on top of that. So it's not going to give unless the ground gets wet enough for the paving stone to settle one way or another. So that's pretty good. Now Lindsay's got some ornamental bird baths that are made of real lightweight metal, and they came with these little teeny tiny anchors you could put in the ground. And I'm going, that's going to work real well. We actually got one. We tied it to a tree growing next to it. Just took some clothesline, the wire, the plastic wrap wire clothesline, and just lashed it to the tree. And I had to go out there every year or so and undo the knot and loosen it up so the tree doesn't grow around the clothesline. because it's sitting next to an oak tree, and it's not a great big oak tree. It's only about 3 inches in diameter right now. But I don't want to damage. I like oak trees. I like cedar trees.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate sweet gum trees with a passion. I mean, that's the fire ant of the plant kingdom. So I just loathe those things. And
I
then,
hate mimosa trees.
oh yeah, we've had to dig up a few of those too. We had one in a little garden plot we had, and it took over before I even knew it was there. I mean, you
Yep.
pull up the little sprouts and the roots keep growing.
Oh yeah, they suck. They're the bane of my existence.
I finally got in there with a chainsaw and we cut the roots away. I mean, I had to resharpen the saw blade several times,
Oh
but
yeah, those damn things are surprisingly tough.
well, it was I actually had to shovel away the dirt to get down into being able to saw the root off, and the saw blade would go in the dirt, and that's a terrible thing for a chainsaw is to let it run through a pile of dirt. So I had to sharpen it up a couple of times. It's not bad. Daddy taught me how to sharpen a chainsaw. The the round file to do it with, and the little frame so that you get the right angle every time. It takes all day.
What you mentioned about the palm tree a little
Yeah.
while ago put me to thought of a neighbor that I had when I lived in Danville. Him and his wife were very much into landscaping and vegetable gardens and flower gardens and that. And he had about an 8.5 foot tall palm tree that he had planted out in the yard. Now, because this is Illinois, you can't keep that out in the yard year round. Expect it to live. So this is what he does, and he does this every year. The palm tree is in a series of 2 different pots. When it's in the house, he's got a huge, I want to say it's a 36 or 38 inch diameter, or no, it's bigger than that. Anyway, it's a huge pot. Inside of that is another pot that the tree is actually in with the soil, and there are holes drilled around the bottom side, two levels of them around there, and on that inner pot there's big rope handles on there. So what he does, and these are plastic coated rope, he made it out of clothesline cord. And so what he does is he'll take it out of the house, and they have tall vaulted ceilings, and he takes it out, keeps it in the house in the wintertime, takes it out after the threat of the last, hard freeze, and he has a hole that he has dug up, and he covers up just with a garbage can lid, and then he has some spikes that he anchors it down, and then on the inside there's it's just the hole, the big diameter of that, a little bit smaller than the garbage can lid. He takes that up, he puts that down there in the hole, and then he shovels dirt in around the outside of the pot that it's sitting in that has the holes drilled into it, and then he puts mulch over it, or a mulch ring, and then that's where it is all summer long. And then usually about the second or third week of October, you'll see him out there with his little shovel or garden spade, digging around the edges of that and pulling it up by the rope handles and putting it back in the bigger pot and dragging the thing back inside it for the winter time. And I've asked him before about this. What is the infatuation with palm trees? And he said, well, we used to live in Florida. And he said, we seen him down there and we brought one back and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we knew it eventually that it was going to be too big and end up dying, or we're going to have to do something else with it. So we keep trying to keep it alive every year.
Yeah.
Now, this was about 12 or 14 years ago when he told me that. And I drove by the old homestead this past summer one day going over to Indiana, and there's Bruce out there and there's the palm tree out in the ground. So I stopped, talked to him, and I said, I see you and the palm tree are still doing pretty good. And that, but I've never seen anybody, it's one thing taking house plants, putting them out on the porch or even in the yard or whatever, and I do the same thing with my hen and chicks and my strawberry planter and a couple things, but never anything to that extent.
That's an awful lot of work. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That is an awful lot of work. I am very lucky that this thing would actually grow, and the climate is warm enough and wet enough for it to stay healthy. And thank you, Ricky. One of my friends has just retired from the factory not long ago. Thank you very much, Ricky Williams. Yeah.
I had to look down there real close at his thumbnail picture because there is a Ricky Williams that is the mayor of Danville that I was just talking about, and I thought maybe he popped in on my channel.
No, not the same person at all.
Not the same one.
Nope. No, I actually brought back about 15 or 20 of these little palm tree sprouts. And I took the biggest one and put it in this one place, and I took the rest of them and put them in a flower pot, going to give them a year or so, and then take them out along the property line out in the woods and let them grow out there. My oldest boy, his stepson, was going to do us a favor and mow the yard while I was at work. And he didn't know they were there. So he ran over the flower pot and chopped them into basically mulch. And I'm not going back to Ocala to dig up some more, I tell you that. I had a couple of hemlock trees that I'd brought back from a trip to West Virginia. And they did really, really well until I bought this house and I had to transplant them when they were about 4 feet tall. They did not survive being transplanted once they were that big. When they were little bitty things, I could move them. But once they got established, evidently their roots spread out quite a bit. And I did not dig up a large enough patch out from under them when I moved them from the trailer park. So, and I'm not going back to West Virginia for more hemlock trees. I'll get a mail order catalog. I mean, the only reason I got them was because I was there, and it was one of those instances where just out of sentiment, I got a couple of them just barely the height of my hand, and
Dan, if you get on the internet, look up Prairie Moon Nursery, and they bless you. They send out catalogs a couple times a year and that, but they have a very extensive line of native plants. They got a lot of organic, if that's what you want to get into with it, certain raised certain way, that no chemicals were used in the growth of this plant. They got a little bit of everything, and they're actually quite reasonably priced, and often have many great sales, because I still get emails from them, even though I haven't bought off them in 2 years, since I'm not to where I can plant anything in the ground anymore right now, that I got to keep them in pots if I have them outside. But yeah, I'm sure they would have your hemlock trees, no problem in that. But I loved looking at their catalogs, just
Yeah,
the
I
things
used
they
to get
had, and
I used to get all kinds of catalogs like that. You would get
mhm.
fruit trees or ornamental trees, or just they even offered to send you a California redwood sprout, and I'm going,
Wow.
would that not look good along the back of my property line in about 100 years when it's 1,000 feet tall? Everybody's going to cut that down before it falls on my chicken house or whatever.
Oh my God, I helped Jenny plant some pine trees. Oh, this has been a few years ago.
I cut those
And
things down. I cut those things down whenever I can. I mean,
these
they,
things, she kept telling me, she said, oh, these are good. These are the good kind, or what, And so she had all these little seedlings that she dropped into the ground over by the corner of her backyard. And, they grew. And then she wanted to replant them. She asked me if I wanted one for my yard. No. And why? And I said, well, because they're scrub pines. They're not anything good. It's not like a blue spruce or anything like that,
oh yeah,
Fraser fir or anything. It's a scrub pine. She didn't understand that, and they're not good trees. And but there's a story I can't tell on here, and I tell it in the green room some night privately. But it's a funny story, and it's not, and but it kind of basically backed up what I told her about what kind they are. And I said, yeah, they're just, it's most people considered a trash tree.
yep. Not even good for lumber.
Dad had one that used to come up in a heartbeat. He called it paradise tree. And it kind of looked like a palm or fern or whatever. And it just, those things were horrible. They were about as bad as the creeping Charlie around here.
Sounds like a mimosa. hmm
It
Oh,
very
yes.
well could have been.
They've got a very fern-like set of leaves.
Yep.
They have pretty flowers on them when they bloom, but they will utterly take over a yard.
Yeah, I don't know if these ever had flowers on them or anything. Of course, we didn't leave them up long enough for them to bloom, if that was the
Yeah,
case. But we wanted just to be rid of them right away, and they always seem to want to come up. Dad had a burn pile behind the garage at our old house in Cherokee, and the thing is, the people that lived there eons ago before us had a rock garden back there,
yeah.
and Dad wanted to do some other things back there, and he tried to dig up that rock garden, and it seemed like more he dug up and pulled out of there, it seemed like more rose to the surface. So eventually he gave up, and he thought, this is going to be a burn pile from now on.
hmm
But those things grew like weeds all around that pile for some reason.
They basically are, and one of the reasons might be that there are some some trees, their seeds have to be um, heated as if from a brush fire.
Mm-hmm.
So they're there just to reclaim a forest that burned down. So they're heat
What you
activated.
right. And
So
speaking of that, we'll do a 90-degree here on the subject. But you mentioned heat activated. Um, I was talking with Sarah, there, my cousin. Um, when I said older cousin one night, she said, "What's that older stuff?" And anyway, uh, so I try to remember not to say older cousin in that. And
never
but
mention a
anyway,
woman's age.
well, but she, I had been telling her about the hot hands that we used
Yeah.
this past Tuesday while we were shoveling snow up there in the frigid temps, and going on about that. She's, well, how's that work? And so I told her how they work and everything. And then today she messages me on the phone, sends me a screenshot. She ordered these, some sort of laundry booster liquid chemical or something that she got from Indianapolis, or that's where it came from. And in the box, in between these other smaller boxes that contain the liquid chemicals, here's a big long bag, and the tag on the bag says, "Discard this." And what it was, because they're liquid chemicals, this was basically like a bigger, a little bit longer than the size of a beanbag version of the hot hands that they stuck in there to keep the liquid chemicals from freezing on the FedEx truck or Amazon truck, however it came to her house today. Which I guess she got it in 2 days anyway, so probably was Amazon, I would imagine. And but I told her, I said, yeah, I said, is it warm? And she says, no, not now. And I said, okay. I said, well, the hot hands that we actually used in our gloves, Laura bought a box of. They last about 8 or 9 hours. And I said, that might have been what those were designed for. They probably, and she said, well, how would they know to start them? Would they start it up before the package was there? I said, no, you open them up, put the package in there in between. And I said, I would imagine just the handling and the juggling of the package going from wherever it was being shipped to the truck, and then wherever it was relayed to the other truck or whatever, was probably enough juggling
Yeah.
around that it activated the heating element inside that bag. And I said, so I'm sure it, she said, well, it wasn't frozen. Well, it did its job then.
Yep.
But
And the exact opposite of that is that black ice stuff that some of the places we order food from, like the Parker's British. Can't remember the exact name of the thing. We've ordered several things from them over the years, and they've got to be shipped from England, so they come with this chemical coal pack that stays cold for a week or two, and well, it comes in a big styrofoam box, so it gets the inside of the box cold, and then it stays that way. And we had accumulated a whole bunch of them, and Lindsay sent them to Hallowcon with me. She says, "Give these away. We don't have room for them in the freezer. I can't put any food in there for keeping these things." So that's exactly what I did. took them there, set them up on the counter where the the cooks and everybody could just gather around and get however many they wanted, and they all disappeared. So I didn't have to bring any of them home, and they went to a good home. That's fine. You can refreeze them and use them over and over again.
Huh.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So we were glad to see the last of them, but they were very useful for what they did when we ordered the stuff they came with.
I wish those hot hands you could put them in
Yeah.
the microwave and use them over again and let them last 8-9 hours. That would be
Yeah.
wonderful. I mean, they're not really expensive by any means. I don't know what I bought them for when I worked out in the garden center at Menards. I bought them for the girls that worked for me out there. We were doing a reset one year, and the help I was supposed to get, I didn't get, and so our department manager said, "Well, the girls that help you out in the summertime and that, can they help you with some of the?" I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely. I need, just pallets of freight moved around and an extra set of hands when handling a beam or something. If I'm having to move some stuff, and so but tell them to dress warm," which some did and some didn't.
Mm-hmm.
After the first day, the ones that didn't, they came back in with a lot heavier clothes on, or coveralls, or what have you. And I told them, I said, bring out your hot chocolate, whatever you want to snack on. I said, I don't mind you eating. Don't eat in front of a customer. If a customer comes out there, which we didn't get a whole lot because it was this time of the year and 20 degrees out for a high during a day, but whatever you do to keep yourself warm. And then I went and I bought hot hands for everybody, and they got them for your toes too. They got different ones for that you could stick down in your boots, which I know Laura last Tuesday, she used them in hers, but because I had that good pair of Wolverine boots that I spent $150 on at Rural King, I don't have to worry about that. They do a really good job.
That's the ones with the felt liner, isn't it?
It's got I believe so.
It's like
I think about it.
It's like a big, almost calf high wool sock that's stiff, and it goes down inside the boot itself. And you put your
no, this is all part of the boot is all one piece. Yeah, it's not a liner that slides in. Or I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
But this one, it's, if you think of a little bit above your ankle high work boot, leather work boot, the main difference on this is, other than it being waterproof across the heel and across the toe, has the rubber on it, like a rubber winter boot.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tongue in the boot going all the way up, instead of and I can't use my Skechers that I got on right now as an example, but because they're one piece too, but the tongue is actually part of the boot, so it's more or less, the tongue is for visual purposes. Mm-hmm. And the boot, you slip it on almost like a slipper, but it goes up above your ankle, and then it has speed laces on it. But yeah, it keeps my feet 100% dry and warm the whole time. My feet stay nice and toasty, whether I'm out there shoveling 5-6 inches of snow in the cold weather, or down in ankle deep water in the basement, which thankfully this last trip we didn't have to. But and now, see, they're supposed to get a warm up there too, just prior to the bad weather in the middle of the week, they're supposed to get up in the 40s. So, which will cause some melting,
Yeah.
which hopefully there'll be not as much snow to shovel. I know we're going to have some regardless, but still then too, when it melts, it'll refreeze again. And then that it'll be like ice.
Yep.
And that's the way it was last time. It just simply because of the road plows going up and down the street caused a lot of stuff. They had the salt and the sand out on the roads, so that caused it to be slushy and melted. And then when the plows are going down, then that's blowing it all over into your yard and on the sidewalk, and then it refreezes up. But anyway, but no, those boots were every bit as wonderful as I'd ever hoped for, and then some. And I never thought I'd pay the price. But like what you were talking about earlier on Stupid O'Clock, you can buy cheap stuff 5 or 10 times over, or just buy the one, pay the money on the one good pair, and be done with it.
Yep. Sometimes that's a hard concept to get across to people.
Yep.
I can afford this now, and then I'll have to buy another one in 2 or 3 years. Or I can save up for a month or two and buy this, and I'll have it for decades.
Well, it's like the old Skechers here. I pay a little extra for them, but they do really good. And because I have flat feet, I like them with these kind of soles on them that they're not all too much of an arch.
Yeah.
But the most important thing about it is the soles. If you look, that's who they're made by. They're made by Goodyear.
That ought to last a little while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've had this particular pair for about 7 years now, and have not worn them out at all. And I've had some other Skechers that I've gone through in maybe a year and a half, 2 years, but they're actually, I think last year they just started doing that with some of their styles that they have. I don't think they do it with everyone, but I've seen it with about 4 or 5 styles of different shoes that they have. But we get them at Meyer up here, which is like a Walmart, but a little bit more higher end. And we get a lot of sales on them because these were originally, I think, $65 full price. I got them on sale for $40.
Okay.
And which not bad. And then with the Meyer app, after you spend $100, regardless of what it is, groceries or anything, you get $5 cash back to spend on anything that you want, anytime you want. It never expires. And that, so, but yeah, you get what you pay for in that, so many cases.
I've still got a pair of those Wolverine boots with the liner inserts.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not had cause to actually use the boots themselves for several years. I think the last time was when we had about foot and a half of snow. For here, that's an awful lot, and it's been a long time, 10 years or better. But when the furnace went out, I wanted some better slippers than what I had. So I pulled the boot liner out, and I went to the Dollar General store, and I bought me a great big old oversized pair of regular slippers.
Mm-hmm.
So that it had a sole to go on it. So I slipped the boot liner down inside the slippers, and even though it's ugly as all get out, this thing, I mean, this is like half-inch, three-quarter-inch of felt here, and it
Mm-hmm.
will last. It will last forever, or until you get it wet. If you get it wet, it's going to part.
Mm-hmm.
It's just felt.
When we were kids, we always bought our snow boots and stuff. Mom and Dad bought them at Kmart or somewhere.
Hmm.
And I had a friend of mine who his family, well, not like we weren't poor, but we were poor. They were more poor. And he wore his stepdad's jungle boots
Yeah.
from when he was in the Korean War. And of course, they didn't keep his feet warm and they didn't keep his feet dry. And so, as far as the warm part, uh, he had either a couple pairs of wool socks or he wore about 3 or 4 pairs of tube socks. And to keep his feet somewhat warm. But the funny thing, and it's funny and it's sad at the same time, to keep his feet dry while he's wearing these jungle boots in the wintertime, he put bread sacks on over the boots and tied strings up around the top of them and that. So yeah, it kept his feet dry until he wore through the bottom of them, which was didn't take long, usually a couple hours if we were out, walking around, or if we had a good snow and took our sleds out, was going to go sledding or something. Uh, yeah, it wouldn't be long at all before he was going through the bottom of the bread sack.
Yep. Yep. I remember some of the old stories that I used to read where somebody in the city, very poor, would have to keep cutting cardboard and putting them in the soles of their shoes because they'd already walked through the soles of their shoes and couldn't afford to have them resoled or couldn't afford to buy new shoes. I've got
Mm-hmm.
I've got a pair of beautiful. They seem to be dancing shoes because they have holes in them right where you would be doing a spin
Mm.
sort of thing. And I want to take them down to a place that can resole them for me, and the price will not be that extreme. And I will have a beautiful pair of shoes that's just my size. And I doubt seriously I'll wear them enough to wear holes in them because my everyday shoes are some of these Walmart beach shoes, basically, or even Dollar General. They're just uh, soft sole, and they're either a mesh top or just cotton like a tennis shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And they here I'm falling into the trap of buying something cheap that's only going to last for a year or two instead of, well, I tell you, I have never had a pair of tennis shoes last more than about 5 years. The sole is going to dry out and start cracking after a while. I don't care who makes them. So these things, they're inexpensive enough to where I can get different colors. And if I'm wearing black pants, I can put on a pair that's black. If I'm wearing blue pants, I can put on a pair that's blue. I've got some that are khaki colored, and I'd wear those with one of my steampunk outfits where had a pith helmet and uh, khaki pants and shirt and vest and coat, like a big game hunter sort of thing. And they were the perfect color for it, but comfortable.
Did you hear that, Chris? He had a helmet to pith in.
Mm.
Usually I didn't have a pot to pith in, so I'm enjoying it now that I've got enough regular employment under my belt to have actual money in the bank.
Apparently, pith happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the sneakers that I wore as a kid, more often than anything else, of course, were Chuck Taylor All Stars.
Mhm.
I had the high tops mostly, and when I played basketball, we had to have white Chuck Taylor high tops. Uh, the soles never did really ever dry out or crack on me, but it seemed like some of the other would come apart, and it was usually right around the toe. I
Yeah.
think you do a lot of flexing with your foot, and the toe gets the worst part of it. Um, and maybe the heel a little bit to some extent, but definitely the toe and up around the front part of the foot. And that's inevitably what would always start getting very threadbare and um, but the rest of it, I was, I was fine. When I was no longer playing basketball in high school, which I only did that for a year, high school, and then I did 2 years in junior high. But I started buying these tennis shoes called Brooks. That was the brand name.
Mhm.
And I love those things because they did last me probably about 4 years, maybe 5. Because I kept growing all the time. That was my problem. I was, you know, gangly, but, very painfully skinny at certain times of my life, but I was always growing. And so, I mean, I was 5'11" in 8th grade. And so, more often or not, I had to get a new pair of sneakers simply because I just outgrew the other ones more than anything else.
Mhm. Yeah, when I was young, I spent more time riding a bicycle than anything else. And I was never very much into sports, so I didn't really have tennis shoes for basketball or anything like that. So, uh, but I would not wear out the soles of the shoes. I would not wear out the toes. I would not wear out the heels. But the little eyelets where you thread the shoestrings through, those things would rip out after about 6 months, and they were decent, brand name tennis shoes. But the way my feet would flex on the bicycle pedals would eventually cause the eyelets to just part from the canvas. And once you were trying to run the shoelace through just the bare canvas, it would take long for the uppers of the shoes to start ripping there. So, those were the days. I used to ride all over creation, and it was fairly safe. I mean, there wasn't anywhere near as much traffic as there is now.
Hmm.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Kmart a while ago because
Hmm.
the Texas Steer popped into my head the other night, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I haven't thought about that in forever.
Those were the boots that we got, was Texas Steer.
Mm-hmm.
And even my brother, like, I know, like in the 70s, see, when we went to Schlarman High School, which they're about a block away from where Carl and Donna live in the north end of Danville. Bless you.
Yeah, I've got a little thing with 2 big fans in it that help keep my laptop from overheating.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't have anything to prevent it from. So if I get a little tired and my legs lower down, it slides.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thought you sneezed and blew your laptop off your lap.
Not quite. No.
Yeah, that's a powerful sneeze there.
I
I'll have
did.
to send you some of my Zyrtec.
I was in college class years ago, and I had one of those sneezes that just came out of nowhere. I mean, there was no way you could stop it.
Hmm.
I swear it sounded like a sonic boom because there was quiet and then boom. Had the whole class looking at me. It was college algebra. It was being taught by a physics professor who, I mean, it was so easy to him. It was boring.
Yeah.
And he had long bangs, and he turned around and shook his head, and his long bangs were like windshield wipers.
Jeez.
And went back to writing on the chalkboard.
Tell them, get a haircut. They won't let you into Disneyland.
It wasn't that it was that long, but it was tapered. And like I said, it was kind of went to a point in the middle, and the ends were a little bit longer, but it stayed out of his eyes for the most part. But like I said, when he shook his head, they were like windshield wipers.
We had two girls in our class that one of them could any little thing would cause her to laugh. The other one, when she sneezed, she could not sneeze one time. Her sneeze was at you, at you. It was always twice, no matter what. Now, and of course, everybody knew that Maria could not sneeze only one time. She had to sneeze twice, and because of that made her a little self-conscious, and she would try to hold back the second sneeze.
Oh yeah.
And she'd be at you, and everybody's just waiting, and then all of a sudden at you, like that, and then that causes the other girl, Nora, Nora would start laughing and laugh uncontrollably, and she literally uncontrollably.
Mm-hmm.
Teacher knew it. She knew she wasn't doing it to be a disturbance.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd calm down, and then somebody would think, okay, I'm going to start something, and then under their breath they'd go at you, like that, and then you'd hear Nora in the back. If she heard it, that would start up, and then of course I'd get everybody else to laughing. And when everybody else would calm down, because we're mainly trying to calm Nora down, and how this teacher could conduct the class, and it was a shoot. It was a religion class, but they called it New Religion. And what we were studying was transcendental meditation. And most people just didn't have a clue about what it was, nor did they care.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what it was because of the Beatles and Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, but that was about it. So anything to kind of relieve the boredom was welcome to the students, but of course not to the teacher by any means.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I thought once I had that nap today, I would not be getting sleepy in the middle of the damn show.
Well, when you get comfortable and you get warm, and it's wintertime and it's cold, you tend to get a little sleepy.
Yep. And the cat is now on my feet again. Maybe she will not get behind the chair for a while.
Maybe
She's
not.
basically telling you, I'm here.
Yep.
This is where I'm at, not behind you.
Hey, that's I don't mind.
They make great foot warmers.
I'd rather have her across my feet than anything else. Yeah.
If your feet have a tendency to get cold, they have a little less tendency to get cold when they're on them.
Yeah, well, cats have a higher body temperature than people do. So
Yep.
it's just a part of their metabolism.
Well,
Laura and I will be texting throughout the night, and we did a little bit tonight. And she, about 10 o'clock, I know her cat Willie, he's the one that she has to give, he's diabetic, and she has to give the insulin shots 3 times a day.
Mhm.
His last shot comes around between 10 o'clock and 10:30. So whenever it's 10 o'clock or a little bit after, I say, is it Willie time? And she'll either say, oh, in a minute or two or whatever, or she'll say, yes, it's Willie time. And this cat will take the insulin shot with no problem whatsoever, simply because he knows he's going to get a treat afterwards. And then after he gets the treat, then he lays on the bed with Laura, and they have their Willie time. That's his name, Willie.
Mhm.
And he's just the sweetest cat in the world. He's 14 years old, and just a doll. He everybody who's ever come into contact with him loves him, and he loves them back. But they have their time, and I said, well, does Willie sleep on the bed with you? No. He seems to sense when I get tired, then he'll jump off and he'll go back in the other room and sleep with his sister. But it's even though he's going in there to get his shot and he gets a treat, he's going in there too to help Laura wind down for the night, knowing that she has to go to bed. So that's usually when she says it's Willie time, that's about the time I'm saying goodnight to her.
Yep.
Well, cats are smarter than a lot of people give them credit for.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And they can tell when you don't like them. You know, a lot of people talk about they're not as lovable as dogs. No, they can be quite lovable.
Yes,
They're not as demanding of attention as dogs are most of the time, but they can tell when you don't like them, and they don't want to be around you because you don't like them.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right. Now, let's see. Now, if she will just not move while I go to the fridge.
Now, see, Dan needs to train the cat to go to the fridge and get his beer and bring it back to him. I figured he heard me. But I think every cat has a certain temperament to it. So when a cat,
than others.
Yeah, if a cat is ignoring you, that doesn't mean that the cat hates you or the cat is bored or whatever. It's just certain things that it wants to do or doesn't want to do at that particular time.
Yep. And I will tell you, orphan cats tend to be more affectionate because they lost their mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Starve of affection.
Yeah.
Well, she stayed on the blanket till I got back and tried to put my feet under there, and then she got up. Now she's standing next to the chair. Next time I get up, I'll have to be careful.
Yeah.
She might get back on your feet again. She's probably waiting for you to get comfortable.
Well, I'd be more comfortable if she'd stayed on the end of the blanket where she was, where I could just slide my feet next to her.
Well, when you move, that upsets their little world and the way things were, and they got settled down, and then they got to get situated again before they can settle back down.
Oh, there she goes. Well, nope, here she comes back.
And they're trying to make sure that you're not going to move on them all of a sudden. And
well, That's the nice thing about me. I'm pretty predictable. Once I get in the chair, I'm not going to get up unless I have to.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I was about 7 or 8 years old. I had a cat, a tiger striped cat that I named Tiger, of course.
Yeah.
He was
As you do.
gray and white tiger stripe one, and he was a lap cat when he was young. And we would let him outside, and he would romp around the yard a little bit, but he always hung around us at the time.
Yeah.
And when he got older, he wanted to go outside, and he'd take off and he'd go on his little adventures, and he'd come back. And it was a funny thing because he would eat breakfast, then he'd want to go outside. We never kept a litter box for him.
Yeah.
Because of that. Even in the wintertime, he would want to go outside to do his business. In the wintertime, if it was, or the weather was really bad, he'd come back in. If the weather was tolerable, he would take off and go on his little adventure. He'd be back at noon for lunch, leave again, and then he'd be back at dark for around supper time, and stay in for the night. He would not go to the door meowing or scratching at the door. And he was really smart that way for a long time. And I thought, well, we never trained him to do this. It's just something he took up on his own. And so we just continued to do it. It was real easy on us. And then one night he just never came back. And we figured either something got him or somebody picked him up, or
Yeah.
and I drove around with my dad, block after block after block, looking and fearing that I was going to see him dead laying in the road where he got hit by a car or something. But we never did find him.
Well, another thing too is if he was in really bad health, lots of times they will, if they can, they will go away so they won't bother you with their death.
No, we've got one. Lindsay swears up and down. Occasionally, this cat will scratch the door wanting to come in. She'll let it in. It'll get a drink of water. It'll get a little bite of food out of the other cat's food bowl. It'll go straight to the litter box, use the litter box, and then go straight to the door and want to go back outside.
Huh.
They're quirky. What can I say?
I mean, this cat might spend a week without coming to the door. And then right there, and she'll let it in. It'll eat a bite. It'll drink a little bit. And it'll go use the litter box and then go straight to the door. Want to go right back outside.
Cats are an entity unto themselves.
Well, I think you probably heard me talk about Ranger, Laura's dad, their little buddy, which is not even his cat. It's the neighbor next door, Ed. But he comes over and he follows Laura's dad around like a little puppy dog. He's a wonderful cat, very loving. He had a brother, and the brother took off and got hit by a car. And so Ed named him the Lone Ranger. And then we just call him Ranger or Ranger Danger. But so we made that little box for him to set on the porch, and we put a heating. Well, I put it was like a 2-inch square styrofoam all along the bottom of it to help hold the heat in. And then we put a heating pad in there and a blanket. And he was going in there for quite a bit. And all of a sudden, Laura's dad said that he wasn't going in there anymore. And I don't know. We're thinking maybe another animal got into the box and maybe left its scent there.
Yep.
And so I think the next time we go over there, which I don't know if she's going to go over there tomorrow or not, she's got a day off, but I know we're definitely going to go over middle of the week if we do get that snow so we can shovel over there too. She said she's going to take out what was in there and either replace it with something else entirely different or just wash that one to get the scent out of it and put it back in there. But since he was going in there with that, it was part of a blanket, an old kind of blanket that her dad had kept to use to cut up for rags, and so he cut one up long enough to put in there. I bought straw to put in there over the top of the heating pad, and Ranger did not like that straw. No, not one bit. He didn't want to go in there. And that, so I purchased, they had these small bales that were about $7 a piece that they were selling around Halloween time for people to put out for decoration and stuff. And they were about the third of a size of a full bale. And so I bought two of them. I thought, well, I'll put one in the shed to have, in case that one gets wet or, wind blows it out or something like that or whatever, and then put the other one in there. But boy, he didn't like it one bit. So I've still got the other one in the shed, but
now you've got some mulch. Not an awful
lot. I got some mulch, but what I did with the other that, because I did have to take it out right at the end of the porch. It was a little on the muddy side, so I put it down there on the ground at the edge of the porch just to kind of hold things in.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that one of my neighbors did, she had bought several of the square bales of hay, not the big round thing, but the old-fashioned square bales, and set them up outside. And she used them as a garden. Basically, you'd go and get you one of the little flower pots with a tomato plant in it, or a pepper plant, something like that, and take your hand and make a little hole in the hay bale or straw bale and set the dirt and the plant in there and stick a couple of pieces of wire or something in there so you could, keep it from getting blown over or whatever. But the roots would go into the straw, and the straw would start decaying from being in the weather, and basically grow tomatoes and peppers and whatnot in a bale of straw. And it, you didn't have to bend over as far to pick anything because it was already put off the ground.
It'd be like a form of a raised garden.
Exactly. And as time went on, the straw would disintegrate more and more, and eventually you'd have some pretty good mulch there just from letting the bale sit there and decay.
But would the bale last the whole summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd last right up until wintertime. Basically, the only limitation would be the kind of rope that was used in the hay baler. If it was just regular sisal fiber, after 2 or 3 months, it would rot away and pop, and the bale would start falling apart. If it was some kind of nylon, which some of the farmers do use around here, it would last a good long time. Basically, it would outlast the amount of time it took for the straw to rot away.
Which, if you didn't know which it was, get some nylon and then wrap it.
That's true. but it's pretty easy to tell the difference. I mean,
Um,
ordinary hay baling rope looks like just an ordinary rope. The nylon, it's
mhm,
red or yellow or white,
mhm.
and you can tell nylon from rope fiber easily enough. Um,
Well,
oh
we
wow,
bought. We went to Danville Gardens when they had their half price sale in June, and I bought some sunflowers that I had in a planter outside over the summer here, and then Laura bought what was it? Oh, hanging basket to put outside her dad's, but she bought him a cherry tomato plant. Now, these cherry tomatoes, I can't remember the exact variety they were, but um, they didn't turn dark red. They were more of a pinkish color.
hmm
Same size, but this thing we put it in a pot. We went to Lowe's and bought these pots, and then bought a garden stake, a 5 foot tall garden stake to put down in the center. And then when it started getting really big, we just went back and we got a tomato cage and stuck it in the pot.
yeah,
And this thing grew up it. And I mean to tell you, from the bottom of the pot to it got up to probably 6.5 foot tall. And Laura had the tag, and I'm looking and I'm like, this doesn't say it's a climber or vining or anything, but I mean, we set it on the front porch so that her dad, because her dad loves cherry tomatoes, and that he would go out, he could just step out onto the front porch to water it in the pot. And he even had some twine, because he loves tying everything up with twine. He had some twine that he tied around, because we put it at the corner next to one of the posts, wrapped it around the post and then around the tomato cage so it wouldn't blow off or anything. But I think it was too heavy to blow off. But
never
that's what he
came to
wanted
it.
to
Yep.
do, And that grew like a weed, and that produced tons of cherry tomatoes. And we told him, we said, now don't wait for them to get dark red, because they won't. And that, I think, was the reason why she saved the tag, because it had a picture of them on there so he could remember. And he would occasionally go out there and pick them and eat them. And that went all the way through almost the end of October. And what was left on there, he picked all green and just put in the windowsill in the kitchen. And that before we actually got rid of the plants. So um, good as those did, I think that next summer I'll try to find the same one if they still have them again. Some year they'll have a certain variety, and then next year they may not.
Yeah,
So.
yep. Never can tell what you're going to be able to get a hold of.
Mm-hmm.
We had one last year. We bought one jalapeno pepper and two different bell peppers and a poblano.
Mm.
And the poblano, that's the one where you get the chili relleno. Uh, that's what they use to stuff the chili in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a not quite as mild as a bell pepper, but it's nowhere near as hot as anything else. It's got a really good flavor to it, and they get huge. I mean, the, if you want to make a stuffed pepper out of this thing, you're almost guaranteed to be able to feed two people off of one pepper. And this thing, I mean, it got over 6 feet tall,
Mm-hmm.
and it produced up until after the first frost. And it was the only pepper plant we had that the stink bugs did not eat every pepper on it, because they totally ruined my jalapeno. They totally ruined my bell peppers. They got into everything.
Mm.
We had some pole beans that we grew up next to the chicken wire fence, so that they'd climb up that. And we had plenty of beans till the birds discovered them,
Mhm.
and then we had none.
It'd be the squirrels over here that would
Yeah.
get them. But no,
Uh,
I had planted for stuffed peppers before in the past. I planted, they were the Big Bertha peppers. And I didn't have a problem with stink bugs, but I had a problem with some other insects. And I mixed up some Dawn dishwashing liquid with just some water, and took a toothbrush and brushed them on the leaves. And then I made it into a paste, and pasted about the bottom 5 or 6 inches of the base of the plant with it. And for the most part, that kept them off.
yeah.
I won't say it worked 100%, but I'll say it worked about 90.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you can find a lot of home ones like that online, or
Yeah.
people don't want to use the chemicals and stuff so much. And it usually the ingredients will consist of one or more of those same ones.
Yep.
What was the name of that nursery again, Bill?
It's called Prairie Moon Nursery.
Prairie Moon. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And oh yeah, I'll tell you. Well, you know, this time of year that you'd be getting all your catalogs anyway, but
yeah,
I would get them from them 2 to 3 times a year.
Yeah, my
Because
mom
then,
used to get burpees and
Yeah.
one or two others.
Yep. I've got that, and a couple of other. Matter of fact, I got one a couple of days ago that I'd never even heard of the company before, and they sent me a catalog. So,
well, I was going through a Mother Earth News or a Rodale's Organic Gardening magazine. And of course, you know, I'm looking at all the ads in the back, and that's where I found this company out of.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've ordered, like I say, a few things off of them before, and they're always, they're very good plants. They're, you know, there's nothing spindly did I ever get from them.
Yeah, Chattanooga radio always advertises the Barn Nursery.
Mm.
And they're right off I-24 before you get to closer to where the old home of LibertyCon, the Chattanooga Choo Choo is.
wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about calling it a night. I'm getting pretty tired.
Well, that's all right. I'm getting tired too.
But it's been a fascinating conversation.
Well, we've
covering a variety of topics as usual.
Yes.
I've come to expect nothing less.
That's what we do best is ramble on.
Of course.
Knowing that she's not up now, I will let you two in on a secret that I was told today when I was talking to my cousin.
Okay.
I called her because I had to kind of let her know about something else that we all know about.
Mm-hmm.
And because she used to watching their podcasts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got talking. She says, now is tonight the night that you guys have your show? I'm like, yeah, 10 o'clock. Well, tomorrow they're having their first in-service church service in like 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. The minister had COVID, and then his wife got COVID after that, but he got better, but and he's clear, but she's getting better. But he was doing like a Zoom church service, just to keep everybody safe. And that their Methodist church she goes to is not the biggest by any means, but anyway. So she said, I won't be able to watch as much of it tonight like I usually do. And I can't remember, she told me it was last week or a week before when she was watching the Saturday night. She said, I'll chime in and say something every once in a while, she said, but if I get real tired, I'll go to bed. She said, but one night it never happened. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And she said, well, I was listening to you all talk about whatever we were talking about. She said, it must have been the tone of your voice or something. I knew what she was going to say next. And I'm like, so you fell asleep, huh? And she's, yes, I did. And she was asleep for a couple hours, I guess. And I said, we're better than James Earl Jones reciting the Bible. How's that? He kind of laughed about it.
Actually, that would be pretty cool hearing him do that.
Oh, man. But I totally understand. There are certain things just listening to something on YouTube, I guess, conversation, people talking or whatever, and it's that same tone, and whether it's soothing or just some sort of monotone or whatever, I've fallen asleep.
Well, it's interesting that Joe hasn't popped in to check on Dan. He must be really out of it tonight.
Oh yeah, well.
Now, has he said anything about his progress or anything, or?
Mostly that he's still getting out of breath way too easily, and he'll be able to talk for a little while and then lose his voice, and he'll have coughing fits and get really debilitated from coughing so hard. So
now, is he taking any antibiotics or anything for that?
Antibiotics wouldn't do a damn thing against a virus.
Yeah.
Well,
they don't.
But what I'm wondering if it's something else as well, because our regular auctioneer that we go to every Friday night, he's been absent the last couple of weeks or so. And last night, the owner of the auction made an announcement saying, for those of you who've been asking about the Colonel, Calhoun, he says, Colonel got COVID-19, and he said it was somewhat of a mild case, but he had some breathing issues. So Colonel is, I want to say 74 or 75. I forget, but that roughly about, give or take a couple years either direction. That's how old he is.
Yeah.
So the err on the side of caution, he went to the ER, and they ended up putting him in the hospital so they could run tests and things. And yes, he had COVID. And so they were doing what they were doing. But afterwards, when the COVID was clearing up, they found some other issues going on with some clots in his lungs and that was causing his breathing problems. And they are running a whole bunch of antibiotics through him to clear all that up.
Yeah.
And of course, once they get that done, then they'll discharge him. But the owner said Yeah, it was something that they said that was not COVID related at all, but COVID probably made it flare up.
Yeah.
And
It's hard
speaking
for your
from
body to fight.
experience, I'm sorry, what'd you say?
It's hard for your body to fight two different things at once.
Well, let alone to recognize them.
Yeah.
Yep.
But speaking from experience with the blood clots, that's something you don't want to mess with.
No.
And I don't know if I asked Martin last night, the owner. I said, "Is Colonel diabetic?" And he says he didn't think he is, but he said, "Don't quote me on it." But I'm wondering if he takes blood thinners already. But if not, he might be going on them, depending on how well the antibiotics work or don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard for your body to fight off a second thing once it's already weakened by fighting off the first.
Yeah.
Well,
thankfully,
and that's
Joe,
why I asked about the diabetes, because people that have diabetes, no matter what you're dealing with, the diabetes compounds the problem.
yes,
Oh,
it
yeah.
does.
It ages your organs well past the years.
Thankfully, Joe's had not only both vaccinations but the booster shot, so it's not as bad as it could have been.
Yeah.
And now we got that new variant. It's supposed to be
Another one?
worse than the Omicron.
Oh Lord!
It's a variant of the Omicron they think is mutated from it. They called it BAT 12 or 21 or something like that. I don't know. It was really, I've only heard the name once, but WBBM out of Chicago has been talking about it. And then I had on our local station down here, over in Danville, and heard them talk about it on that news. Now, it's my understanding once the virus mutates, it's supposed to get weaker. And I know that's what Stephanie was talking about last week or week before, whatever. And so I don't know if this information that I'm hearing on the news now about this variant of the Omicron being more difficult is misinformation, or if they just, well, obviously they don't know enough about it yet, but if it's that new, but.
Well, unfortunately, you're dealing with an issue from the press, right or wrong. They tend to want to get the exclusive and get it out there sooner before everything's known about it.
Yeah, news is news, huh?
Yeah, and it sometimes exacerbates the problem more than it helps provide a solution.
And sometimes they take the angle that seems the most fear and panic inducing, because that will help sell.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care if I hear it first, but find out the facts first and tell me later, as opposed to scaring me now.
Well, I was listening to the radio, sports talk, and the big issue today was a couple of reporters are leaked that Tom Brady was retiring today after 22 seasons. And there's, the organization, his father, and a few others said, well, he hasn't finalized his decision and decided what he's going to do yet. So, in their eagerness to get the scoop and tell everybody about it, even if he may have been going to retire, it's possible that he's going to play another year or two just to tell them to kind of kiss off. especially since one of the reporters was giving him so much hell about Deflategate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been
Yeah.
hearing everywhere that it was official, that he did retire, that it's like, okay, he's been playing for 22 years or whatever. And I know he came up in 2000. So, yeah, 22 years.
But
Um,
the
but
thing
the,
is, if he decides he wants to play another year or two, he can do it because he led the league in passing and touchdowns at 44 years of age.
mhm.
I
Yeah,
Yeah,
mean,
they're
he was
already
very
calling
proud.
him, they're already calling him the best
yeah, they call him
quarterback in
the
the league and
greatest of
that.
all
And
time.
being a Green Bay fan, I heartily disagree with that, but so be it. The thing about
Um,
it is um, I think if I were Brady, I would come back and play simply because right now, if he did retire, if he actually did retire,
mhm,
he retired after losing. So
mhm.
I think retiring after winning, whether it be a winning season or just the last game, looks a
Well, I mean,
lot
he won
better
his
on you.
division. I mean, it wasn't like he went out a loser. I mean, he lost in the divisional playoffs, but
Yeah,
the thing is,
and
he didn't necessarily retire a loser, losing season or getting hurt or whatever. And not everybody can win a Super Bowl and retire like Peyton Manning does. That doesn't happen very often.
mm,
But
and
that's another reason why I listen to the news, but I get leery of it because how much of it is them wanting to get ratings.
Uh-huh.
And it's sad that it's gotten that way because back when Uncle Walter was around, he reported it and let you decide it for yourself.
Yeah, nowadays they try and tell you what to think.
Well, yeah, they try and steer the conversation and put their spin on it.
well, I guess we'll wait to see if Tom has a press conference, and that would be one way to confirm it for sure, I
Well,
guess.
he's supposed to have a live show on Sirius XM that he hosts every Monday night called Let's Go. So, but
But
I can see how he was upset because he's always done things on his terms. He, I'm sure he wanted to announce it himself, not have it leaked by some reporter
Yeah.
that may have caught wind of it or the possibility that he might be, and just said, "Oh, we're going to go ahead and say he's going to retire."
yeah, but
I
he,
mean that
those
was
things happen though.
I
That
understand, but
that's part of it, and he's been playing long enough that he should know that too. So
Yeah,
you get the card you're dealt with.
that's
yeah,
true.
but if that
But
wasn't his intention and they just speculated on it and went ahead and
mm-hmm,
said it, I could see him being upset about it because it's not fair to him, it's not fair to his team, it's not fair to his family.
mm-hmm.
Because he ought to be the one that makes that decision and tells them first, not have to hear it from some reporter who's trying to win an award or put another feather in his cap or whatever.
Yeah.
So Chris, right now, I know you kind of keep up with the sports a little bit and that, and I don't know how much Dan does or doesn't do, but do you
Right.
actually have a team you're going to root for right now where everything is?
Well, I'm a little bit torn uh, because Matt Stafford played for Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoyed watching him play for Georgia. He's a quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams, but the Rams have had difficulty with the 49ers this year. But their
Mm-hmm.
quarterback has a habit of turning the ball over in big games, and this could work in Los Angeles' favor. As far as the other ones, I like Joe Burrow because he's an exciting young quarterback, and the season he had with LSU when he won the national championship was phenomenal. But I have family from the Kansas City area, so I've always kind of been a Chiefs fan to some degree.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the way I'm leaning right now. Not that I'm such a big Chiefs fan or anything, but I think if I'm going to root for somebody, it's going to be somebody like that probably needs the win more. Yeah, I'm not going to have anything to do with the 49ers because that's who trumped Green Bay last week. Or, well, they didn't trump them, but they stole it,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But anyway, but they did win. And so I can't root for them. And, oh, God, I just cannot root for any West Coast team.
I don't know how it's going to turn out. Like I said, that's why they play the games, and anything's possible, especially in this day and age. But it will be interesting.
Yeah, and I declared the season over last week, but I'm not watching the games by any means. I really wasn't watching Green Bay this year up until last week, and now I wish I hadn't watched it.
Well, it happens because unfortunately I'm a Falcons fan, and I get reminded of 28-3 all the time. But that wouldn't have happened if the coaches had enough sense to kick the dang field goal when they had the opportunity.
And here's the thing. Okay, so Green Bay's out, and to all intents and purposes, the season is over for me. Usually by now I would say, man, I can't wait for spring training. I can't wait, for that home opener or something like that. But because what Ricketts and them did with several key players of the Cubs last year by trading them off, getting rid of them, especially Laura's favorite, Anthony Rizzo. Oh, my Lord. Me or her both probably won't have anything. I mean, we'll always be Cubs fans, but we're probably not going to be rooting for anybody anytime soon. Probably at least for a few years.
Yeah,
we got about 30 seconds. Yep. Let's wind it up. It's been a great night. We have covered a lot of topics, and we've even had somebody watch us all the way through. So I'm happy.
Now what are they going to do for the rest of the night?
Well, they're not going to watch
figure it out.
The chair.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that right now.
I'm proud of you, Dan.
Yeah.
It was a close call there a time or two. I forgot to take my B12.
Yeah,
so I see the sealed bottle right there, and I'm going, it's too late now.
Yeah.
So whoever they are, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Thank you very much, folks. Have a great night, and we will see you next week, Thursday night, if nothing goes wrong.
Yep. Yeah. We might be talking about weather.
Yeah. Well, let's hope
digging out of it.
Oh, let's hope not. But whatever happens is going to happen.
Yeah.
Have a good night, guys. It's great as always.
You too, Bill.
Appreciate it.
Yep, you too, Bill.
All right. Bye, con Dios.
Bye-bye.
Bye.